Seems as though I've gone a little bit netbook crazy. Here is another one. This is a Lenovo IdeaPad S10. This is a fairly old unit that I've had for quite a while. Couple of years. Intel Atom N270 with 1 gig of RAM. It originally had no hard drive, but I've installed a 250 gigabyte Western Digital Scorpio Black that I hope works. I have absolutely no idea. I've never tested that drive, but like I said, this is a very early netbook, and probably one of the better ones, with the exception of the keyboard. Because, yeah, this is a very not great keyboard, but, you know, it's got a decent screen. It does have the webcam, Intel Atom inside, and it's a nice little design. There's nothing overtly wrong with it, and a decent battery. At least it would have had a decent battery when it was new. The battery is probably completely toast now. So I'm going to do something I don't recommend. I'm going to use a completely random power brick that got unplugged. Okay, well, I've got a blinking light on the front here. Probably for the battery, if I would hazard a guess. Yeah, that's what that looks like that's for. Let's go ahead and power it on. Let's see if it'll even power on at all. Posts. F2 to get into setup. Beep yourself. And we can see here all the information. It's a Phoenix Trusted Core setup utility. Well, it does see the SATA, and it looks like it might support like an M-SATA SSD. That's a little surprising. I'm not sure. I don't know that it would actually do that. Should probably look into that. Of course, all of the settings are completely and utterly wrong, so they're going to have to be adjusted. Actually, before we get the CD, I want to PXE boot this thing. What's the key combination for that? I'm not sure. Probably F12. Yeah, of course, it's F12. Let's see if it'll actually do this. Boot menu. Let's go to the LAN. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to check out the hard drive. If I can. Alright. Looks like we're good. Smart warning and disabled. Why is smart disabled? Well, I don't see any problems. It kind of makes you wonder if it's actually increasing those values or if there is a problem. I don't remember how you go to the enable. No, I don't want to run the routines. Alright, well anyway. It looks like it's fine. So that's good. Okay. I have this little external USB CD-ROM. Let's see if it'll actually boot. Well, that's not very promising. I hear it making noise, but I don't think it's actually going to start. Just the same as I don't think my camcorder is going to focus. So I turned away from it and it did, but all I have is a blinking dot. And I know that disk is good because I used it recently to install another machine, so I know that it works. Well, it looks like I'm going to have a fun little battle with this little netbook. I don't know how much I want to get into it. It's like 2 in the morning. Okay, now it's working. That was weird. This is Windows XP. I know Windows XP is entirely and utterly obsolete, but this thing only has 1 gig of RAM. And to be bluntly honest, if I want another machine or I want a netbook with Linux, I can go get another one. I mean, I have that other Lenovo that's got Linux on it. So, Windows XP it is. Okay, so now that we're here, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that. Install to the unpartitioned space with a quick format. The time is 2:15 right now, 2:16. So we'll see how long it takes for Windows XP setup to complete on this system. I could probably do this from a USB stick and it might be faster, but then again, I don't really know if it would be. This thing's probably old and slow on the USB. The fan is also running quite high, so hopefully it doesn't overheat and shut down. Didn't really take all that long at all. It's 2:20. It was 4 minutes. We are on the first reboot. Let's see if it's actually going to boot to the hard drive, or if I'm going to have to adjust something. Yeah, it will. I'm just going to let it go. Windows XP. There's times I miss Windows XP and times I don't. You know, the interface definitely does get quite old after a while, but something about the old school charm that isn't too bad. Before somebody says something, yes, this is my disk that is modified with Internet Explorer 8 and a bunch of other things in it. It was just easier that way. Because all of my other discs are either DVDs. I mean, this would actually read that, but they're not here. They're sitting outside, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to go get them. They're either DVDs or they are RTM discs, and I'd rather not use an RTM disc. That's just a pain. So we'll do it that way. Plus, the other thing about this is this does have a Windows XP license on the bottom, but I can't read it, so I have no idea what it actually is and what the key is. So we'll just use this copy of it. Makes things easy. Don't think Microsoft is going to come after me anyway, because Windows XP is obsolete by like 12 years. It's funny how that always says 39 minutes. Every time. Try the easiest Windows yet. Windows XP might go down as perhaps the last vaguely sane version of Windows. Well, Windows 7 wasn't too bad either. There's certainly people that didn't like the interface, and it took me a while to get used to it. I thought parts of it were kind of stupid, but particularly the Mac OS style dock I thought was kind of dumb. Making the taskbar work like the OS X dock, I thought it was stupid, but eventually I got used to it, and these days you have to get used to it because in Windows 11 you can't even turn that off anymore, but this is good enough. So I'll let this go through. It's about 2:23 right now. We'll see how long this takes. Okay. The time is 2:41. Be interesting to see how many drivers I'm going to have to install. Probably all of them. I think the trackpad is more offensive on this thing than the keyboard is, to be completely honest. But the keyboard's got a stupid layout on it. Well, I don't have any audio, so that's definitely not working. I wonder if you can even still get the drivers for this thing. I'm not going to bother turning on automatic updates at this point because it's almost certainly not going to work. I'll have to install Legacy Update. Welcome! Yay! Now I gotta do the incredibly fun thing of getting all the drivers loaded on this. I wonder if it's actually charging the battery, or if that's just not going to work. Desktop background. And like I said, there are times I kind of miss the old school charm of Windows XP, but there's other times not so much. See what kind of carnage. Oh yeah, look at all that. There's no Ethernet on this either. Well, that's going to be entertaining. Okay, it's now the next day, and I have got everything pretty much wrapped up. I've got all my programs installed. I have a web browser. I've got my disk and temperature monitoring software. I've got all the updates installed. Everything is pretty much ready to go here. I'm not running the unofficial service pack, and I'm not installing the POS Ready updates on this because I just don't care. For no particularly good reason, I just don't care. There is one unknown device. I have no idea what it is, unless maybe it's the shock sensor for the hard drive. But I don't really care, so we're just gonna shut this thing down, and we'll call it good. Like I said, I do have a web browser. I actually have two. I went ahead and downloaded a version of the New Moon web browser, which is a fork of Pale Moon for Windows XP. And of course, there's this browser, which is unsupported, but it runs as well. So, thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below.